Seeing some storms developing. 2 advisories, actually 3 now, that we kind of want to tell you about.
Escape might dissolve.
As these storms continue to track to the northeast, keep in mind some isolated areas of very heavy rainfall anticipated.
A massive mobile home completely destroyed.
There is a flood advisory.
And then the next thing you know, we looked and the tree was into our house.
A 50 or 60% chance.
All kinds of noises, trees cracking, everything.
Even had a tornado warning this evening.
You can see the wash where that boy went sweeping through.
Hello and welcome to Monsoon 2015. I'm KGUN 9 Chief Meteorologist Erin Christensen.
And I'm meteorologist April Madison. Over the next half hour, we'll update you on everything you need to know about this year's monsoon.
And I'm Kyler Diggs. We'll break down the severe weather threats expected for the rest of the season and take a look at what southern Arizona agencies are doing to respond.
This year's monsoon has been pretty sporadic. Some parts of town completely drenched, others are bone dry, but not the case in Nogales. They've seen torrential downpours this season. This video, shot by a 9 on Your Side weather spotter at the border, washes running at full speed down there.
He comes floating by here, say, help, help, help me.
A 14-year-old boy was swept away near Blackledge in Walnut. Tucson Fire says the boy was trying to retrieve a pair of glasses. They say he eventually was able to get himself out of the water using one of the ladders leading down into the wash. Before that, we had a good hailstorm captured by dozens of 9 on Your Side viewers. Take a look at this hailstorm taken at a West Side home. This was the scene at many locations around Tucson, including high on Mount Lemmon. The season began with storms mostly in southern Arizona. That's the part of the state that gets slammed pretty hard every year. This is Douglas, and video provided by a 9 on Your Side viewer. And a storm in Benson left heavy damage at a church down there. As the monsoon has progressed, others have found themselves just shy of a rescue and stalled in Midtown. This driver admitted he underestimated the depth of the water in the street.
I'm glad that no firefighters would have to come and rescue me, or that would have been very embarrassing.
Every year, Pima County posts the most flood-prone roads, and the list is extensive, just about 30, and that's just in the county. You can keep track of road closures at KGUN9.com. Lightning-caused deaths are extremely rare, but Arizona has seen at least 3 so far this monsoon. The first happened at the Mogollon Rim in Flagstaff. A 24-year-old hiking with a group took an indirect hit that killed her. The next 2 happened on the same day, Tuesday, June 30th. A storm swept through Nogales, Mexico, and struck a 9-year-old girl. She died days later at Banner Hospital here in Tucson. And a Benson man also struck and killed by lightning. Workers found his burned body.
We're here at the Santa Cruz River, and really not much happening into the first month of the official start to monsoon, but this can change very quickly.
Concerned about the capacity of our bridges along the Santa Cruz to handle the volume of water that is expected.
Last year, city leaders prepared crews to close all crossings at the Santa Cruz River. The river was running wild and jumping banks at the time, so a stark reminder to stay away when you see this happening.
Beside the washes in southern Arizona, and we have plenty of those, streets become rivers too, and it takes very little rainfall to do that. Monsoon 2014 proved deadly. Flooded washes claimed 2 lives.
Water's coming. It's going to be over the windshield soon.
One in Catalina, authorities say a 76-year-old woman attempted to cross Cadillac Wash near Suiso Road. She died. Her husband narrowly escaped. Record monsoon rains filled the Alamo Wash. Another woman's car became pinned against the pedestrian bridge and the water surge swept her away. The family thanked the heroic first responders who tried so desperately to save her. Who can forget this scene last year? A raging stream across Beverly Street left a Sun van stranded. Emergency crews were forced to improvise.
Okay, let's come over here, Ben.
Even using a 9-on-your-side vehicle to pull the driver and passengers, many with physical disabilities, to safety. Sheriff's deputies will typically position themselves in big crossings to make sure no one attempts them.
We all know about the stupid motorist law. Since it was enacted in 1995, a very few have actually been charged. Motorists can only be charged if water already covers the road, barriers are in place, and the driver goes in anyway and has to be rescued. Drivers can be liable for up to $2,000.
This year, KGUN 9 on Your Side proudly introduces a new app so that you can track the latest monsoon activity. It's called the Storm Shield app. Just search Storm Shield in the App Store and download it. Once here, you can tell it exactly the areas that you want to receive the alerts for. It will even show you the moving radar. You can sign up for your area or up to 5 different spots. You can actually get phone calls directly from us to Aaron Christensen with a Storm Shield alert when your area is under severe weather. Last year proved to be a high volume year for swiftwater rescues. So far this year, rescuers saved a boy who fell in trying to reach for his glasses. Fortunately, he pulled himself out unharmed. Monsoon 2013, rescuers had to pull 6 people out of a running wash.
Look out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
And this incredible video out of southern Nevada shows an amazing swiftwater rescue a year ago. Airmen spring into action to save a couple being swept away by floodwaters. Their Prius stuck in the mud in a median when heavy flood runoff started flowing. The couple is pulled out moments before the car was swept away.
Winds can whip up and cause even more damage than the rain. Take a look at this photo taken at Davis-Monthan Air Force last year. Powerful winds took hold of an F-16 and flipped it on top of another retired jet. We just showed you damages and rescue situations from the past, but to minimize their own damages, Tucson Electric Power continues to make improvements to their power grid. Keaton Thomas shows us what TEP has done to prepare for this year's monsoon.
The monsoon, known for heavy rain, flooding, but for TEP, their biggest concern, heavy wind.
We get such strong wind gusts, they will blow down wires and they'll blow down poles.
Just take a look at what can happen downed power lines because of wind gusts. TEP crews responding to bring them back up, a common sight during the summer.
There's no such thing as an impervious electrical system. It's us versus Mother Nature in a sense.
But TEP says they're making improvements to their system year-round to reduce the possibility of damage during monsoon. And one improvement you can actually see for yourself, they have to replace those snapped wooden poles with new metal ones.
Although they are susceptible to damage, they tend to bend instead of break.
But if you do see downed power lines on the ground, make sure you do stay away because they could be charged. Keaton Thomas, KGUN 9 on your side.
Some 9 on Your Side viewers have asked us what exactly happens to your car if you end up like this man stuck in water? And how much would it cost to fix your car when you get it out? The best case scenario, if your car does stop working because you stalled it in the water, could be something like maybe replacing your spark plugs. But the worst case scenario?
Primary one would be something called hydrolocking. You get water actually inside the engine and it stops the pistons from going up and down inside the cylinders. So that's major engine damage and it's usually catastrophic.
The cost of fixing something like that? You could have a repair bill up to $10,000.
We've seen some impressive lightning storms so far this monsoon, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration estimates that about 25 million lightning strikes reach the ground each year in the United States. But your chances of being struck by lightning are still pretty rare. Take a look at this impressive lightning storm last month at the start of the monsoon. This is a common scene in Tucson throughout the summer months. Meteorologists at the National Weather Service typically double staff during this time of the year. So for Monsoon 2015, a big push towards social media to keep you safe.
We'll actually assign someone to social media only. Meanwhile, one person's working the radar and issuing warnings, another person's working on the forecast, maybe answering phones. We actually have dedicated a person to social media.
Simple tips if you get caught up in a storm. Get down low to the ground and crouch. Put your feet together and try to stay away from others and tall objects.
Most people, what happens is besides knocking them unconscious, it disrupts their breathing and heart rate. So if you can get to the person quickly and administer CPR, a lot of the times you can bring them back.
So far this year, 13 people in the U.S. have been killed by lightning.
And I thought, wow, that's really close. I guess it was really close.
And a rarity in Rancho Sarita when lightning struck the back bedroom of this house.
Tucson has seen its fair share of monsoon damage.
Flood damage is more than extensive. It is almost unbelievable.
Including Tropical Storm Octave, considered the worst tropical cyclone in the history of Arizona. Remnants of Tropical Storm Octave hit Tucson in October of 1983, just after a very wet monsoon. Take a look as rivers swelled to record levels, many jumping their banks and wiping out buildings. Bridges became uncrossable. Sandbagging was useless. Thousands forced from their homes. Statewide, the storms killed 14 people. 2 DPS officers died when their rescue helicopter crashed in Marana. Guy actually sat down with their fellow DPS officers.
Anyone who lived through the floods of 1983 will never forget them. The rains came in torrents, 12 inches in some places. Every major river in southern Arizona experienced the highest crest on record.
This morning, the raging Rillito whittled at the riverbank.
14 people drowned, hundreds of houses washed away, numerous bridges collapsed. Among those who died in the storm were 2 DPS officers in a rescue helicopter. The pilot, 36-year-old Thomas McNeff, and paramedic 27-year-old Richard Stratman. They went down at night in a Marana cotton field.
Because the clouds were probably all the way to the ground, they had no visible horizon. They couldn't see which way was up. Unless you're paying attention to your instruments and just relying on your senses, you can get sideways, upside down, who knows, what direction you're going. So by the looks of the skids, again, with a 70-degree angle, it looks like they just flew it straight into the ground.
DPS pilots John Fink and Denny Welsh, now retired, were there that day. In fact, Fink had worked with McNeff before being transferred to Air Rescue in Flagstaff.
And Tom was a great pilot. I flew a few years with Tom. I feel bad because, again, he was my pilot, and Rick Stratman, took my place, so that should have been me. But for the grace of God go I.
Denny Welsh had spoken to the 2 officers not long before the crash. In fact, he was set to relieve them after they had carried out countless rescues during an excruciating 18 hours in horrific flying conditions.
I said, "You promise me you won't go out anymore?" And they said, "Yep, we're done." I said, "Okay."
But when a call came in that a Catalina woman was in labor and had no way to reach the hospital, the pilots said they would take it. They were not heard from again.
One thing that came from the crash, there was high standards set on all the crews, and there could only be 10 hours of flight time and so many hours of set downtime where you're loading patients or doing a rescue or where the aircraft wasn't actually in motion.
Today, you'll find a DPS memorial for Thomas McNeff and Richard Strapman along I-10 in Marana, two heroes who undoubtedly saved numerous lives before sacrificing their own.
From 1977 to 1993, the Tucson area has experienced 6 presidential declared flood disasters. The first in July of 1990, the middle of Monsoon. The second in January 1993. The U.S. Geological Survey, Department of Interior, says the floods of 1993 were estimated to be 76% larger than the flood of 1983. These heavy rains caused the most widespread and severe flooding in Arizona since the turn of the century.
July 2014, Nogales washes filled and overran many neighborhoods. At one point, there were reports of 3 bodies floating in the wash. No bodies were ever found. A month later, emergency crews did pull out a woman's body after a severe storm swept through the area. Washes, jumping banks. Take a look at the damage left behind. 30 years of possessions destroyed by the mud for one family. Also in July of 2014, the rains in Mexico brought down part of the border fence in Nogales. Torrential downpours and storm debris took out a 60-foot section near the Mariposa port of entry. Border agents were stationed in the area until it was fixed. That fix came 6 months later. 9 on Your Side was there as crews put up new fence posts.
Crazy! That's how one witness describes the microburst that swept through Apple Annie's orchard in Wilcox July 12th. 9 on Your Side's Keaton Thomas shows you the damage.
This is video from the inside of the Apple Annie's barn at about 3 in the afternoon. You see heavy wind and rain. These images came from John Gardner, who I spoke with after the storm.
So we pretty much waited until the last minute and everybody went inside when it started to sprinkle.
He says within about 3 minutes from the start of the rain, this was the scene. The roof of Apple Annie's barn had blown right off.
There were pieces of it that were 2 or 3 fields north, just twisted and tore up.
And after that, employees put everyone inside a walk-in cooler for safety.
We were about 45 minutes inside there while it was just raging. The storm just kept going the whole time.
The National Weather Service says these winds probably due to a microburst. Apple Annie's posted this photo to their Facebook page of the aftermath. On top of losing the roof of the barn, they said that there were downed power lines and uprooted trees. They say no employees or customers were injured. Keaton Thomas, KGUN 9 on Your Side.
A microburst early in the season launched this above-ground swimming pool several houses down. Take a look at this scene on Tucson's west side. The pool, 18 feet wide and 4 feet deep, a mangled plastic and metal mess, first landed in a tree and then dropped to the ground. Fortunately, no one was hurt.
So you guys decided to come forward and talk about this. It's sort of an emergency kit. Is this something that people need really year-round?
They should put together an emergency preparedness kit year-round, especially here in Arizona, because we never know what's going to happen. Home fires tend to be the most common disaster that happen.
What all is here, and what is each item for, and how does it help you in the case of an emergency?
Okay, let's start over here on this side then. What we have here is we have a first aid kit, just a basic first aid kit that has some tape in there, some Band-Aids, some alcohol swabs, just items that you would need just to take care of minor cuts and minor first aid. So that would be something that every family should have. You, of course, bring your cell phone. Most people now have cell phones. Don't forget the charger to the cell phone. This is probably one of the key items that we have here, which is a hand crank radio, and it has the ability to get the weather information. Just a little small first aid kit, a glow stick here. There's an emergency poncho, and there's like a little emergency blanket in here as well too. It's important to have, you know, food items as well as water. You need to have at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. Get a flash drive and scan your important documents, your insurance papers, your medication list. One of the things that's necessary is proof that you actually live in the house that was affected. So something like a utility bill that has your address and your name on it. So you could scan all the documents and just have that.
Basically, any important document that you need to have in case of it being destroyed.
Yes.
Many longtime Arizonans have noticed a change in storm activity. Storms used to roll in around the same hour every day. Now, somewhat of a change. The reason? Drought. You need the heat in June during monsoon to bring the moisture up from the south. Also, you need moisture in place evaporating from the ground. But in a drought, you don't have much of that. The National Weather Service explains the cause and effect.
The number of thunderstorms you have developing, and you know, maybe if we didn't have the drought in place, on the days where we would normally have just a few around, you know, would be typical. We don't have any because we just didn't have enough moisture because of the drought.
This year, the KGUN 9 weather team is proud to present our new weather tracking system, WSI.
No one can control Mother Nature, but we can track weather patterns to help keep you safe. WSI has the technology to monitor the entire state or just a single cloud over a neighborhood. Stay with KGUN 9 on your side this monsoon and throughout the year for the most reliable weather coverage.
Plus the new Storm Shield weather app. You can download it right at KGUN9.com.
And the phone system, you can get a call directly to your phone.
All of the information presented can be found on our website, KGUN9.com. I'm Erin Christensen.
And I'm April Madison.
And I'm Kyler Diggs.